We start the tale in Finnish Lapland. It all begins 24 days before Christmas. The American company Sub-Zero is drilling at the top of Korvatunturi Hill. One worried man, Mr. Green, arrives at the office of the manager, Mr. Riley, and informs him that at a depth of 400 meters they found sawdust among the rocks and clay. At first, Green thought the workers had pierced ancient wood inside the mountain, but he discovered that the layer of sawdust is almost 20 meters thick. This is a highly unusual phenomenon. However, the surprised Riley finds an explanation for it. In the past, people used to store ice wrapped in sawdust. This means that Korvatunturi Sopa is a giant refrigerator, where something mysterious is stored in a block of ice. Riley knows what is inside and demands that the drilling continue. He gives Green a safety memorandum that, among other things, instructs him to wash behind the ears. The foreman thinks this is a joke, but Riley seems serious and even aggressive. Near the office, two local boys, Peter and Juuso, are hiding among the boxes. The children are curious to observe the drilling operations, but it is strictly prohibited for them to come to the site. Thus, they secretly listen and peek at what is happening. Meanwhile, the workers continue drilling and indeed find a block of ice beneath the sawdust. Green hands the piece of ice to Riley, who looks at the discovery with delight. The boss then climbs onto one of the rocks and solemnly announces to the workers that his childhood dream is about to come true. Korvatunturi Sopa is the largest mountain in the world, and the people of Lapland have been building it for centuries. Now the workers have 24 days to open the mountain. Riley even allows them to use dynamite for this. Juuso understands a bit of English and translates for Peter that the hill is about to be blown up. After this, the boys quickly descend the mountain and leave the forbidden area through a hole in the fence they made themselves. Peter, the younger of the boys, assumes that Santa Claus is buried inside the mountain, but he can't believe that Santa is gone, as he comes every year. Juuso laughs at his friend and says that Santa doesn't exist, and that at Christmas all the children are greeted by a local man named Paranin. At that moment, an explosion occurs at the top of Korvatunturi, and the boys stare at the mountain in astonishment. At night, Peter finds many books about Santa Claus at home and begins to read them. The illustrations depict Santa Claus as an evil creature with horns and a stick in his hands. The books say that Santa walks barefoot in the snow, beats naughty children, and cooks them in a cauldron. Time passes, and Christmas is just one day away. The next morning, Peter's father, Rauno, sharpens wooden stakes and drives them into the ground inside a rather deep hole. He then covers the hole with spruce branches and snow and hangs bait over it. The result is a wolf trap near his yard. Rauno then goes to the house and shouts for Peter to get up. The boy's room is filled with books about Santa Claus. He spent the entire night awake, sitting on the windowsill, afraid to fall asleep, but ended up dozing off in the morning. His father's shout and a snowball at the window wake Peter. The boy jumps abruptly and regrets dozing off and becoming vulnerable to the wicked Santa Claus. Peter then covers the last window on the advent calendar so he won't open it, clearly showing that he is afraid of Christmas. Looking out the window, the boy notices barefoot footprints on the porch. This frightens Peter, and he wants to talk to his father. Rauno is working in his slaughterhouse at that moment, and the boy is afraid to go in. Finally, he closes his eyes and enters to see his father. Peter asks if Rauno has been on the roof. He hasn't done anything of the sort. He tells Peter to stop fantasizing and sends the boy back home to get dressed, as they will soon be herding reindeer. The boy realizes it is Santa Claus who is walking on the roof and watching him. Soon, the family meets with other reindeer herders. Rauno gives his son a loaded gun for the first time and approaches the pen. Juuso is there too. Peter informs his friend that Santa has been walking under his window at night, but Juuso laughs at him. A reindeer herder named Paranin says that the explosions on the mountain may have frightened the wolves, so they need to be careful while herding the reindeer. None of the adults know what is really happening at the top of Korvatunturi. At that moment, the reindeer begin to come closer to the pen. The people are preparing to hunt, as they need to deliver the meat to be sold. But besides the two young deer, there are no others in sight. Upon realizing that something has happened to the herd, Rauno, Paranin, Yuso and Peter hop on their snowmobiles and set out in search of the reindeer. Near the fence surrounding Korvatunturi, the group finds the herd, which for some reason has perished. A man named Imo, also a reindeer herder and Yuso's father, is waiting for them at the fence. He has discovered the hole in the fence that Peter and Yuso made to secretly climb Korvatunturi. The men suspect that particularly dangerous wolves have escaped behind the fence and eliminated the deer. No one knows that the hole was made by the boys, and now they must remain silent. The reindeer herders count the carcasses and realize they are facing $85,000. It is a huge sum, and now the reindeer herders may go bankrupt. Peter examines one of the reindeer and notices a barefoot mark beneath it. The boy realizes that it was the hungry Santa Claus who exterminated the herd. An enraged Rauno and his friends decide to invade the fenced area and deal with the representatives of the drilling company. At night, the men arrive at the top of the mountain and storm the office with weapons, but there is no one there. Obviously, the men left the site in a hurry. Peter finds a schematic on the wall of the burial site inside the mountain and realizes that the workers unearthed Santa Claus. The others gather around the enormous hole and are bewildered by what has been done there. Rauno throws a flare into the bottom of the hole, but they still can't see anything. The group returns home. Frustrated, Rauno decides to roast meat for the Christmas dinner, and Peter seals the last window on the advent calendar with a stapler. Yuso, who is sitting at home, does not understand his friend's fears. Peter puts on hockey gear to better protect himself from the wicked Santa Claus and shows Yuso drawings from the books. They depict Santa in a true demonic form. Peter then shows the schematic he stole from the office on the mountain. In the books, the boy learns that in ancient times the people of Lapland grew tired of the terrible Santa Claus and decided to put an end to him. They lured the villain onto ice that broke beneath his feet. When the lake froze completely, Santa was trapped in the ice. Then the inhabitants took this enormous block of ice and buried it beneath a large pile of rocks. The resulting mountain was named Korvatunturi. Yuso just laughs at this story, but Peter understands the danger and wants to tell his father that they made the hole in the fence. Yuso is vehemently against this, as their parents would not forgive them. Soon he goes home, and Peter descends to his father's kitchen. Rauno gives his son gingerbread cookies and milk for dinner, and lights candles. But the man is not in a festive mood. Peter says that the cookies are delicious, just like his mother's. For some reason, the woman passed away several years ago, and the memory of her does not lighten Rauno's mood. Peter asks if he has been a well-behaved boy, and if his father would be upset if he disappeared. In response, Rauno tells the boy to go to sleep. Finally, he wishes his son a Merry Christmas, and furtively wipes away the tears caused by his memories and current troubles. That night, Peter does not go to sleep. He sits by the window and clutches a bunch of keys in his hand. If the boy falls asleep, the keys will drop and make noise on the floor. That sound will wake him up. Even so, the keys drop, but the boy falls asleep. Just before that, something happened at Korvatunturi. The alarmed foreman Green contacted the manager by radio and demanded that a helicopter be sent urgently for evacuation. The cargo that had been extracted from the mountain turned out to be a living creature, and this terrified all the workers. But manager Riley, who had flown before, saw no problem and demanded that the cargo be delivered to him. While they were talking, someone appeared along the mountain and eliminated all the workers. Soon, Green was horrified to see a creature with bare feet before him. Christmas is approaching. Rauno pulls the burnt meat from the oven and shoves it back in, frustrated. He then tries to heat the fireplace, but there is a crack and a cloud of soot flies into his face. Pediulas wakes up to his father's shout and runs to help. The frightened Rauno, armed with a chair, checks the fireplace. He discovers that Pediulas set a trap for Santa Claus in it. Rauno thinks it's a stupid joke and wants to punish him. But Pedula goes outside and is horrified by what he sees. There is no bait on the wolf trap. Upon hearing the boy's screams, Rauno comes running and slowly approaches the trap. Looking into the hole, he first finds bird feathers, but a little deeper he finds a man. Rauno leaps and pulls curious Pedula away. Rauno tries to pretend that everything is normal and prevents his son from looking into the hole. Pedula has breakfast and insists on going back to the trap, but Rauno tells him to calm down. Soon, Paranin, dressed as Santa Claus, arrives to wish the boy a Merry Christmas. But Rauno intercepts his friend on the street and asks for help. Padil overhears the adults talking and decides to follow them. He sees Rauno and Paranin dragging something large in a sack across the yard. The men take the load to the slaughterhouse and lay it on the table. What appears is a decrepit old man with a beard. In the pocket of his coat is an American passport in the name of Ryan Green, the foreman from the mountain. Rauno does not know what to do. On one hand, the old man is in the wrong for invading his yard, but on the other hand, it is illegal to build wolf traps. After thinking, the men decide to get rid of the old man and hide their tracks. Meanwhile, Peter, left unsupervised, runs to the wolf trap and jumps inside it. At the bottom of the pit, he finds a sack with a scary doll inside. Rauno and Paranin sharpen their knives in the slaughterhouse and begin their work. But then the old man suddenly jerks his hand. Apparently, he is alive. The old man begins actively moving his nostrils as if he is sniffing something. At that moment, Peter approaches the window of the slaughterhouse and observes what is happening inside. Rauno notices his son and goes outside to catch him and bring him in. But the boy quickly runs toward the highway. Rauno jumps in his car and follows Peter. On the highway, the man spots the sheriff's car and sees his son getting into it. Rauno curses and goes after the police. The sheriff stops at Imo's house. Here everyone gets out of their cars, and the sheriff reports that strange things have been happening all day. Rauno, with his head down, says that he and Peter are fine. At that moment, Imo comes out of his house and takes everyone there to his barn. Several dozen sacks of potatoes have been stolen from him. For some reason, the potatoes have been dumped. The sheriff looks around the barn, astonished, and reports that that night there were stoves and heaters stolen from almost every house. The thieves did not hesitate to knock down walls to enter the residences. The hairdryer of Imo's wife was also stolen. The irritated man thinks that representatives of the American company stole all those appliances and will use them to create some kind of technology. Rauno believes that, with this optimistic note, he and his son should leave, but Peter does not listen and goes to Yuso's room. Thinking that his friend is still asleep, the boy goes to the bed and discovers under the blanket the same scary doll that was in the wolf trap. Peter grabs the doll, runs outside, and informs the men that Yuso has been taken. The sheriff assumes Yuso went to see a girl and will be back soon. The other men also do not have time to worry about the teenager. The sheriff leaves, and Rauno asks Imo to go to the slaughterhouse and talk to the unwanted guest in English. Rauno still believes that the strange old man is a worker from the American company, and of all the adults in the village, only Imo knows English. Meanwhile, Paranin keeps watch on the old man, nibbling on a gingerbread cookie. The old man sniffs again, as if he smells a delicacy. Paranin taunts him, and the old man begins to make unintelligible noises. When the man leans closer, the old man violently lunges at him. Rauno, Peter, and Imo arrive at the slaughterhouse. A frightened Paranin meets them at the door. He places a cloth on his bitten ear. Peter enters the house, and the men examine Paranin's wound. The injured man thinks it best not to enter the slaughterhouse, as the intruder does not behave like a human being. However, the friends do not listen to him and run inside anyway. The naked, hunched old man sits in a corner and looks sinister. The friends attribute the guest's strangeness to the fact that he is a foreigner. Imo points his gun at him, approaches, and first asks neutral questions. The old man remains silent and does not even look at his companion. Rauno decides to support his friend and pokes the old man with a stick, but he still does not react. Then Imo, getting an idea, approaches the old man and loudly declares that they need money. At home, Peter calls the parents of all his friends. It turns out that none of the children have been home all day. The boy tries not to show alarm, but the disappearance of the children from the village makes him anxious. In the slaughterhouse, the old man is interrogated with a broom, but he remains indifferent. Imo believes that the guest is just pretending to be deaf so that they will pity him and let him go. But the men intend to keep the guest as a hostage until the American company pays a ransom for him. Then someone knocks on the door. It's Peter, who wants to talk to his father. Sensing the boy's scent, the old man turns to the door. Peter brings a stick and asks his father to slap him for being a disobedient boy. And especially because he and Yuso made a hole in the fence next to the cursed mountain. Rauno does not understand anything, so Peter tries to explain that Santa Claus took all the children away for being naughty. Their conversation is interrupted by Paranin, who asks Rauno to come back to the slaughterhouse. Apparently, the crazy old man chewed the broom. Everyone recoils in horror. The curious Peter enters the room. Upon seeing him, the old man gets up. Rauno grabs his son and pulls him closer to the old man. Then the boy explains that the old man is the wicked Santa Claus, who came to kidnap all the children. The adults finally believe Peter and realize that this demon has been unearthed from the mountain Corva Tunturi. The old man prepares to attack the boy. Then the men point their weapons at the villain and decide to tie him up. They succeed. Now the old man is disarmed, and the group keeps watch over him, nibbling on gingerbread cookies. Suddenly, a radio activates in the jacket that the old man stole from Foreman Green on the mountain. It is manager Riley checking in. He still does not know what happened at the top of Corva Tunturi and thinks his workers are okay. Riley informs them that a helicopter is on its way to the mountain in half an hour and asks them to prepare Santa for transport. But the group has other plans. They tell Riley that they are ready to take Santa to the mountain and sell him. The friends dress the old man in the Santa suit that Paranin wore that morning, put him in a cage, and take him to Corva Tunturi. Throughout the journey, the old man looks at Peter as if he were prey. Meanwhile, the adults decide how much to sell Santa for. They need at least $85,000 to pay off the reindeer debt. After arriving at the mountain, the men get out of the car. Imo finds his wife's hairdryer on the ground and wonders how it got there. His daydreaming is interrupted by a helicopter from which Mr. Riley emerges. Imo does not speak English well, so Riley has no idea where his men have gone or why armed Finnish strangers are demanding $85,000 from him. To clarify the situation, the friends bring forward a cage with the old man in the Santa suit. Riley approaches and touches his beard with interest. While the adults are busy, Peter gets out of the car and heads for the large hangar. The old man in the cage lifts his head and looks directly at Riley. Suddenly, his eyes begin to glow ominously. Riley immediately becomes agitated and tells the Finns to lower their weapons and smile as broadly as possible. It turns out that the old man in the cage is not Santa Claus, but one of his elves. The men do not understand much and continue demanding money. Suddenly, the lights on the mountain go out, and the helicopter pilot disappears in screams. Riley says that Santa will now seek out the naughtiest. The friends arm their weapons and see that they are surrounded on all sides by terrifying naked old men, Christmas elves. They prepare to defend their master. The elves quickly eliminate Riley and approach the other men. At this moment, Rauno realizes that Peter is missing. Firing back at the elves, the men rush into the hangar and find the boy there. They close the doors and immediately see something horrifying. In the middle of the hangar, in a block of ice, is a huge creature with horns. It is Santa Claus. The elves stole stoves and heaters from the villagers and then brought them to their master's hideout and hooked them up to melt the ice. Soon the ice would melt and the monster would break free. Many sacks are spread alongside the ice, from which voices of children can be heard. The elves have gathered the children for their master so that he can punish them when he wakes up. Yuso is among them. When he hears his father's voice, he starts crying and begs to be rescued. Imo runs to the sacks and tries to find his son. At the same time, the elves begin to drill through the door from the outside. Paranin and Rauno unplug the stoves and heaters and try to barricade the entrance to the hangar with them. At this moment, the block of ice shatters, but Santa still cannot get out. Paranin screams, terrified that no one will survive, and the others also get agitated and panic. Only Peter remains calm and devises a rescue plan. Examining the hangar, he notices a hole in the roof. The boy has an idea and tries to shout to everyone, but they cannot hear him. The adults make a huge noise, and the children in the sacks are crying. Then Peter fires a shotgun, and everyone abruptly falls silent, looking at him. The boy says that as long as the children are here, the elves will not leave the hangar, but Santa must be destroyed. The dynamite, which is stored in the hangar, can be used for this purpose. Then everyone acts according to Peter's plan. Paranin knows how to pilot a helicopter, so he carefully exits the hangar with handfuls of gingerbread cookies and distributes them to the elves. The elves immediately forget everything and launch themselves hungrily at the delicacy. Seizing the confusion, Pyronin runs to the helicopter, takes off, and communicates with Peter using the radio found in the hangar. All the children in the sacks are placed in the cargo net. Through a hole in the shed's roof, the friends connect the net to the helicopter. Peter also grabs the net, as all the children must be together for the plan to work. Rauno and Imo must remain in the hangar and do their part. Peter then commands Pyronin to hover over the forest and hunt the elves. These villains should be able to sense that the children have left the hangar and go after them, and so they do. The hordes of elves run through the forest after the helicopter. The next step of the plan is to use the children as bait to lead the elves to the empty pen and lock them in there. At this point, Imo and Rauno remain in the hangar and drill holes in the block of ice around Santa Claus. The men insert dynamite into the resulting holes. After admiring their creation, they decide to make a little Christmas gift for themselves. With a chainsaw, the men cut the monster's horns off and want to take them as a souvenir. Maybe they can sell the horns for a profit later. Meanwhile, the helicopter flies to the reindeer pen. The elves will be here soon. But a problem arises. The gates of the pen are closed. There is no time to change the plan, so Peter decides to go down to the corral and open the gate himself. But because of the hanging net, Pyronin is unable to land the helicopter to pick up the boy later, and in the barnyard, the elves can seriously hurt you. However, Peter doesn't care. He decides to sacrifice himself. Not listening to Pyronin's reasoning, the boy jumps from the hammock onto the pole, goes down to the corral and opens the heavy door for the elves. They are close. Peter turns on the electricity to keep the fence energized so the elves can't leave. The boy then asks Pyronin to tell Rauno about his feat and prepares to confront the elves. The angry creatures run toward the pen and head straight for Peter. The boy is extremely terrified, so he closes his eyes and thinks of his father. Meanwhile, Imo and Rauno enter the car and leave the hangar with the monster's horns. As soon as they drive a safe distance away, Rauno presses the button on the detonator and remotely explodes the building. The hangar and the horned monster are pulverized. Still in the pen, Peter opens his eyes and realizes that the elves will not attack him. They remain still, helpless, looking around. A joyful Pyronin laughs as he watches the explosion on the mountain. He then informs Peter over the radio that Santa Claus has been destroyed, which means the elves are now unemployed. Peter is happy that his plan worked and that no one except for the villains was harmed. The boy then asks Pyronin to take the children home, as they should be in their beds now. At dawn, the three adult friends and Yuso arrive at the reindeer pen. There, Peter is waiting for them. He locked up the elves and counted how many there were. There are 198 in total. The boy believes they can be sold for profit, passing them off as Santa Clauses. Rauno offers to charge $85,000 for one Santa Claus. Imo asks his son to quickly calculate what the total profit will be for all the Santa Clauses. According to the calculations, the total amounts to about 17 million. Rauno cannot contain his emotions, approaches his son and hugs him. They admire each other's bravery, watching the captured elves and the beautiful sunrise behind the mountains. The festivities pass, and the next year arrives. There are 312 days until Christmas. The friends put the humble elves in showers and force them to bathe. 76 days before Christmas, the elves learn to hold children in their arms, pet them on the head, and deliver gifts. 24 days before Christmas, the friends pack the newly manufactured Santa Clauses in boxes and prepare to sell them to different countries. Pyronin now has a cargo plane and is getting ready to take off with the Santa Clauses.